Hey, AfterBuzzers, we're back for the Lore After Show. We're talking, oh my gosh, bathing in blood. Yeah, poor little virgins and stuff. Yeah, stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Welcome back to the Lore After Show. We're talking episode 2, Elizabeth Bathory. Get it? It's her real name, though. Mirror, mirror. I'm Adrian Snow, and you're my fellow co-host.
I'm loving this already. Yes, hey, how's it going? Kari Lane here.
Hey everyone, I'm Mina Wahab.
Got some Dracula circa 1992 playing for you guys. All right, so as always, we will have a special segment at the end. Please stay tuned for that and any news that we might have. And I just want to get first thoughts on the episode.
This one was a story I was familiar with, but I liked how they gave a lot more character development in terms of, I knew a general idea, so it's nice to see it broken down, and you really felt for that one girl who shows up and is like, yeah, I'm fine, and no, you need to leave now.
Yeah.
So it was a little more spooky than episode 1, which I liked, and it was a neat tonal change. Like, it's more of a creeping.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, some of those are pretty creepy.
I really enjoyed this episode a lot. I felt like it marked I don't want to say a pretty drastic departure from episode 1 because they're kind of similar thematically, but something about it stylistically was so different, where you had this element of like darkness, but kind of like Disney darkness in this weird way, where I felt like Snow White and the Huntsman vibes, but mixed with like old English, like, you know, those typical movies that we see all the time. But there's just something about it that I really enjoyed, like that fairy tale aspect where it doesn't even feel like a real story, even though I knew the story already. It just, there's something about it that's like, wow, this is so mysterious and eerie, and like, what's gonna happen, even though you know what's gonna happen, how is it gonna happen, and you're still like wondering even though you already know.
Yeah, I enjoyed this episode. I did, for some reason, even though it's shorter, think it was a bit slower in pacing than Burke and Hare for me. I don't do well with blood, even though I love vampire stories, strangely enough. But so this was not, you know, ever going to be an episode that I was going to watch easily. But I appreciated that they, the characters that they created around Elizabeth Bathory were fictional, just because we don't have a ton of information on what really happened, outside of what the servants who were able to escape told us, and what they documented in court, which was only based off of her accomplices and not her. Fun fact. Because when you're wealthy, you get away with it. Kind of. So,
what did that? I mean, we'll get to it a little more later too. The ledger was real, though. That was a document?
The ledger is rumored. It is not. Okay. It's been told that it was spotted by one of the servants, and then when the servant went in, it was a list of names totaling up to 651 women.
Because I thought the way the episode told it made it seem like that did go to court.
That's something that I wrote down as well. That in the episode, they definitely had to fictionalize certain things just because we don't have a ton of information on Elizabeth Bathory. But Elizabeth Bathory was a countess back in, I forgot to write that down, the 1600s, who was married to Ferenc Bathory, I believe, or maybe just Count Ferenc. Ferenc. Closed captioning said F-E-R-E-N-C, and I just
Vlad? No, he's not.
He's not Vlad.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, a lot of Dracula stories are based off, or vampire stories are based off of Elizabeth Bathory as well.
Yes.
And so the way they told it in there, well, let's just start with the story that we see on television, because she was so much creepier than I was anticipating her ever being portrayed on television or in film. Like, I anticipated that she would be creepy, but I also felt that there should be some type of warmth to her to bring
lure them in.
These women in.
I didn't think
she's
she
not
really
doing
had
the luring.
warmth, but I understood the fascination with her. If she's so beautiful and she's so amazing, if she's so knowledgeable, like you'd be moth to a flame. It totally is one of those. You're not, well, even though that's warm, but you know, you're just drawn to her even if she's not kind.
It wasn't not about like kindness necessarily, but just
She was icy.
she was so creepy.
Yeah.
Just from jump. That I was like, how are people not picking up on like this weird feeling
It
coming
has
off of
the
it?
upper class, like maybe that's how they are. You know, that's just their behavior.
I get that.
And I was like, where's her name?
Everyone was a peasant who was lured in
Everyone
until
prior.
that one.
Yeah, until Lady
And she
Lady
was the only one
Margit.
that knew anything was going on because no one else suspected anything.
That's true.
So maybe that's why, was because there was that difference in class that you pointed out.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I felt like it was much harder for me to watch episode 1 than it was to watch episode 2, because even though there was obviously more blood in this episode, it wasn't like I didn't cringe watching it the way I watched episode 1, where there was like choking and suffocation.
That's interesting.
That's why I was surprised that you said, oh, you couldn't watch this. I couldn't watch episode 1. I kept having to like turn away like every single second. I couldn't watch it. But episode 2 was way easier for me to digest.
I think I went into episode 1 anticipating the murders to be a lot worse than they were. At least what I was anticipating.
Sure.
So when I saw how they actually killed them, I mean, it's still violent and horrible, but I was anticipating it being worse than that. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't expect it to be. I expected them to be maybe more physically violent with the body, or with the person, with the body, while they were in the act of
It's a
killing
body
them.
at that point.
Not
Not
till you
yet.
kill 'em.
Not yet. Yes.
And so I guess with Elizabeth Bathory, I knew that she bathed in blood.
Yeah.
Well, that we think she bathes in blood. But I didn't realize that like blood was a part of every aspect of what she did and
Like
how
the
she pampered
stationery and
herself.
the makeup.
And that was a bit much. Or like the opening shot of them sewing up one of the wounds. That was a lot.
That was a bit much. Yeah.
And the mouth's already sewn shut.
The mouth sewn shut was wonderfully graphic. I like it. I'm like, oh yeah, real life blood. No, can't do that at all. But movies, TV, no problem. But even though it's violent, like they don't show the dogs eating the girl. Like, that
No,
bit,
it was a nice
which that
cutaway,
could
but
have been,
it was creepy enough watching them pour honey on her.
Ugh. There was something about that actress who was very, striking.
I want to understand, like, why did they maim the girls the way they did? Like, why did they have to have the dogs eat the honey, the vicious dogs attack? And
Well, she did say that the reason she did that was because of something that her husband enjoyed doing. So they were both torturers, essentially.
But I felt like, I don't know. I felt like it was so unnecessary because her husband's not around. It just felt like a ritual that she's continuing.
Well, how many people after someone dies continue rituals?
Yeah.
House of Cards.
It was just so bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Like, out of any way, like, you could do it in a different way. I didn't understand why it was so.
Well, I want to go with, she definitely had some psychoses going on. Because the fact of, like, which we'll get to later, of, like, the actual bathing in blood. But the fact that you thought that worked.
Yeah. Well, let's go into just a little bit of the animations, because the animations kind
did
of
like that a
help
lot.
answer those stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
I appreciate that they had that, because that's something that was in season 1 that was more so a part of Aaron Mahnke's narration. So having the actress take over that narration in story was kind of nice to see. It also, I'm sure, saved a lot on budget, because you don't have to show, you know, ancient war and people breaking down the door and coming in and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciated that. But we get to see the information of, so yes, this count and this countess in Hungary. And at the time, they said Hungary, but at the time I think I read somewhere that it was also a part of Transylvania at that time. Or like I don't know.
Well, that would add to the vampire lore.
Yeah. And so, or Transylvania, the way those are grouped together, some connection. And that when he died, they brought in the character of Ava, which I appreciated, that they had like this kind of unwilling accomplice to kind of, you can see like the story through her eyes as well, that they essentially it was Ava yanking too hard on her hair and then her beating Ava and getting the blood on her face that made her
That's how
realize
she
that
discovered it.
that blood was like the key to youth. And so there was definitely a neuroses or something happening in there that didn't make any sense.
Having a love lost like that, though, could understand someone going nuts. So,
and also with the impression that they as a couple were already nuts to begin with. Like when she talks about the present that he had and the little spikes going to the neck, like this is not a normal couple.
I would definitely agree.
BDSM.
Yeah. Well, to the nth degree, not even like
On
past
other people,
BDSM. Also, if you want to see listen to the original Lore Podcast episode. That's episode 34, All the Lovely Ladies, where he talks about Elizabeth Bathory.
It's good.
And I think he talks about a few other serial killers in that episode as well. There's one, oh my God, this woman used to marry men, got the idea
Like
from
Black
H.H.
Widows?
Holmes. Was a fan of H.H. Holmes back when he was alive, and basically would kill men and take their insurance. It's fascinating. Sorry.
How you do?
Go into the darkness. So at that point, we know that Elizabeth Bathory is no good news. We are introduced to Lady Margit, and she's like as Snow White like as you can possibly be. She's all like everything's great and nothing's wrong, and but there's someone screaming, and I thought, I don't know how you guys felt, but I thought she was a little too naive at the top. Maybe it's because I'm super cynical. I don't know. How did you guys feel?
I would take it. Yes, she's very naive, but she probably hadn't been out much.
I guess.
And so she's just probably so overwhelmed with it all that can't comprehend a darkness. Like if you stayed at home your whole life and never really went anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I thought she was educated enough that she's not she's not stupid.
I thought she was pretty perceptive. I didn't see her as naive. I saw her, there was a slight naivete where she was like, oh, maybe we should go help them. Like, what's going on? And but why would you assume the worst in someone when you're seeing this beautiful presentation and you've seen all this horror, and you've lost your mom at a young age, and you've had to be the person to take care of everyone? Why would you assume the worst in someone who's taking you in and who has such a beautiful presentation when you're with them? So I don't want to say she's naive. I didn't think she had a reason to believe the worst in this lady. She was actually pretty perceptive to catch on so quickly.
Yeah.
I just thought Ava gave a lot away with her facial expressions. Like, Ava was very easy to read. So at a certain point, it's like Ava's hiding something. Not just me as the viewer, like, realizing that, but like if it was the girl, like it's so easy to pick up on at that point later on. She picked it up early on though.
I would say I thought she was naive because she was picking up on the clues. So one, it's weird when a woman douses a piece of meat in honey and then feeds the dogs in front of you to it, or feed the meat to the dogs in front of you. It's weird when you see cuts on almost every single woman there, and there's little to no explanation as to why they're being cut.
There probably was a weird energy about the space too.
And it's weird that people are screaming in the middle of the night, and that wasn't the aspect that I thought was naive. Like, I'm happy she picked up on those things, but then it was about how she responded to it. So when she saw the infection on Ava, she tells Elizabeth Bathory, even though Ava's like, don't do it. That's a naive moment. When Ava makes it very clear, okay, we need to escape. We need to leave. And she starts panicking and being like, well, you're a part of it. Okay, and stops listening to her. That's naive. And I was like, well, for a split second, I was like, oh, maybe they're doing it where like she escapes and that's, the fictionalized account.
Plot twist,
But no.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
It's the standard, oh, you lied to me about one thing means you lied about everything. It's like, no, and your life is in the balance right now. I'd at least hear her out.
Yeah, because she's trying to help you in this moment.
Yes.
Just follow her. Don't.
How could you trust someone who's telling you something and you're like registering all of that?
Because all that
in your
other
mind?
weird shit happened.
Yeah, if she's telling me that Elizabeth Bathory is the reason why everything else is happening, then I'm going to follow her. And actually, we do have a picture of Elizabeth Bathory before we continue. It's a painting of Elizabeth Bathory.
Yeah.
So this is kind of give us an idea of what we're working with here. Clearly very wealthy, clearly, dressed to the nines. So much. I worked on a period piece recently and was not even that far back, and I was like, good Lord, it took you like 30 minutes to get dressed.
This is why they had people help them.
Yes, definitely. So just to go back to the actual story, so we end up losing little Lady Margit and Eva.
Yeah.
Double whammy.
Yes.
And this is when we are leading up to the moment of seeing the actual act of what Elizabeth Bathory does, which is she bathes in the blood of the young.
And hanging it from the
She
ceiling.
hangs it from the
It
ceiling.
was so beautiful cinematically. I know that sounds so weird for me to say, but there was just something
shot it
about
well,
it where,
yeah.
like, yeah, it was creepy, yeah, it was eerie, but there were so many beautiful visuals throughout the entirety of this episode where
That's
I was
true.
just
Yeah.
like,
The costumes
this is
are
so well
amazing.
done. Like, bravo to Amazon Prime. Like, we have like these new mediums to watch content, and it's just as good, if not better, than watching a movie in theaters. I was very, very impressed with like the different shots.
Yeah.
Actually, that shot reminds me in the show Salem, Lucy Lawless's character has a shot like that in a bathtub and someone hanging from the ceiling and draining with blood.
Oh, yeah. We also have, and we can cut to that as well, Hostel Part 2. The opening murder of Hostel Part 2. If you haven't seen Hostel Part 2, it's the women's turn. Is actually an homage to Lady Bathory, or Elizabeth Bathory. And it's a woman who bathes in the blood of the youth. And we have, I forgot her name from the House of Yes. I've blanked on it. But she would also...
Lady Gaga?
No,
that's
from
another.
from Hostel Part 2.
Yes.
But to jump to that as well, so in season 5 of American Horror Story, Lady Gaga, I was supposed to say Lady Bathory, Lady Gaga, plays a woman by the name of the Countess who, okay, to be clear, I did not watch American Horror Story this for the past like 6 years, but essentially is also kind of an homage to Elizabeth Bathory as well. It's like a kind of vampire-like woman who also
she's a vampire.
bathes in the blood. Well, I read somewhere that it wasn't like
their
they weren't-
vampires aren't regular vampires.
Yeah. So bathes in the blood of young people and stuff as well.
And actually, speaking of blood, kind of an interesting special thing. So a host here, James, who's going to be on Vikings, if you watch Vikings, he is a nurse practitioner. And so I messaged him like, I have a question for you. I said, what are the health benefits, if any, and negative consequences of bathing in blood? And his immediate reply, which he does not know this legend, all caps, OMG, no one should ever do that. And I was like, no, okay. And he goes on to say there are so many diseases in blood that can be transmitted through open orifices, cuts in the skin, etc., hepatitis A through D, rare blood bacteria, HIV, all kinds of stuff in your blood. And then I kind of was curious. I went a little further, like, I wonder what happened that made her think this was actually working. And then he kind of had suggested, I suppose it may have darkened her skin maybe a little bit, which could have impacted the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, but the skin will not absorb any nutrients or anything from the blood. But what could happen is that through your eyeballs or open orifices or cuts in the skin, you could be exposed to all kinds of awful diseases that were probably in other people at that time. Which I was like, oh, that was actually really interesting to learn that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Don't bathe in people's blood.
No.
Or pig's blood. Or any blood.
That's just
don't
gross.
bathe in blood.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what we're trying to say. This is the moral of the episode. But yeah, so we end up finally, Sophie, who's just always in the background of the entire episode, is the one who takes the actual ledger and runs off to court.
And the men believe her.
And they believe her. She has the book. And
Yes, but still.
King Matthias is there. He sends off, in real life, a man by the name of Thurzo, who goes and arrests Elizabeth Bathory. And he was the one who came up with the whole idea that he discovered her bathing in the blood, which is just a rumor. He never said that was the case, along with the fact that she was actually never brought to trial because she was so noble. They didn't want a scandal like that amongst nobility. So her punishment was to be bricked into her bedroom, and where she lived with only like a little slot open for food and air for 4 years before she died. Most likely of like a heart attack or something. So or maybe
or
suicide.
malnutrition,
Or-
or
How can
any
you
other
kill yourself
horrible
if you're
things.
in that confined space?
Well, she
Oh,
still
there's
had
many ways. It's your room. There's
Yeah,
stuff.
she still had stuff. It wasn't
Yeah.
like
You can
like
be
a regular
creative.
prison. She had
Yeah.
a bed. She had all of her things, and then
Oh, okay,
also
but it was solitary confinement.
yeah, no, it wasn't like a normal
House
solitary
arrest.
confinement. It was house arrest, a bricked-in house arrest.
Yeah.
I kept thinking
Ugh.
because it was so dramatic at the end. She's like, where I was staying forever. Or
Yeah.
something.
Just her bedroom.
They literally just bricked her up
Yeah.
in her bedroom, and then or a nice little theory: all the ghosts of the women she married came back and killed her in her sleep.
I like that
So-
one.
Yeah.
Oh, and then how she kept cutting herself too, as if that would
Yeah.
do anything. Oh, that was a wonderfully gross visual.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up this episode. Were there any final thoughts before we come to a close?
I'm curious to see where the rest of the season will go.
Yeah, I liked the animation effects.
Yes,
and so
I did too.
as long as they keep incorporating that kind of like Aaron Mahnke touch, I will appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mina, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I'm just curious to see what they're going to do stylistically that's any different than what's already been done because
Yeah.
they have a pattern of doing cool things for like 1 and 2. I feel like they might introduce something totally new episode 3 and 4.
Cool. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Lore After Show on AfterBuzz TV. I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. You can also catch me on Doctor Who on Sundays as well as Outlander on Mondays until 2 weeks from now where we go on Sundays. Where can they follow you both?
Yes, on Instagram and Twitter. You can find me online at Kari D Lane. That's KaridLane.
Hey everyone, I'm Mina Wahab and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Mina Makes Magic, and also please be sure to tune in to the season finale of Kidding on Showtime at AfterBuzz TV Monday at 9 p.m.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will actually see you next week.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.